language learners, there is so much advice on how to learn a language, so many different strategies, so many different options. And people advise different options for a variety of reasons. Maybe they're trying to sell a product, or maybe that's just a strategy that works for them. And so they think, aha, this is the holy grail of learning languages because this works so well for me. So I'm going to grace the world with my information, which is great. Nothing against that at all. However, you do have to bear in mind that not one strategy works for every person, and not every person will be happy with just one strategy. Strategies shift and change all the time between languages, between skill levels, between interests, between all sorts of different things. With all that being said, how do you choose a language learning strategy? How do you decide what strategy you want to try out? How do you decide, if you should change it, if you just stick with it and, hope for the best? In this video, I'm going to give you 5 pieces of advice for deciding what kind of strategy you should be using, how to know if you should change it, what you should be thinking about, why you might want to change it, all sorts of things. In this video, I'm going to help guide you in a certain direction for a strategy that might actually be beneficial to you, and not just something that I do, not just something to, sell you something. I want to give you genuine, innocent, helpful advice. The first piece of advice I have is to understand what you want to do with the language. What do you want to do? Do you want to have conversations? Do you want to read the newspaper? Do you want to watch movies? Do you want to be able to understand family members? Being laser focused on what exactly you want to do with the language and what you actually want to accomplish with the language will give you a good idea of how to get there. If you want to, read a book, you read smaller things, easier things with easier vocabulary, and build yourself up. If you want to understand a family member, if you want to understand your grandma who comes from the old country and you want to understand her, you start listening to, little kid shows and build your way up. Make sure you are focused on what it is that you want to accomplish, and that will give you the direction you need to have a little bit more of an understanding of a great style for you and a great strategy for you and great material for you to actually accomplish the thing that you want to accomplish, instead of just playing on Duolingo because, Duolingo's fine, but it doesn't do everything. Sorry. Second piece of information, the second tip I have, is to make sure that you're enjoying yourself. Now, look, as a society, if you're an American like me, then you have this preconceived notion that unless you, spend blood, sweat, and tears accomplishing something, you don't deserve it. And I get it, yay capitalism, right? This is what we have learned, that in order to accomplish something big and to feel proud about what we're doing, we have to push ourselves, we have to bleed, we have to cry, we have to, we really have to struggle in order for it to be worthwhile. I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. We don't have to do that. Sometimes language learning will be challenging and stressful. Yes. Sometimes it will be difficult. Yes. It's like learning any new skill. Any new skill can be difficult sometimes to practice and to learn. However, as a general rule, we need to be enjoying our language learning. And this isn't just, some frivolous piece of advice. It's actually for a reason. I have a video talking about motivation, link below in the description for that. And one of the base ideas behind that video and behind motivation is that we need to enjoy what it is that we're doing. Setting goals and working towards goals and accomplishing goals, unless we actually enjoy, we genuinely want to do it, we're not going to do it. Or if you're really bullheaded and you have the ability to, force yourself to accomplish something, even if you really don't like doing it, I mean, that's great for you, but it's going to be really difficult. And it's just, I don't recommend it. You really need to enjoy what you're doing. I want you to be thinking about that when it comes to what it is that you're practicing, what it is that you're doing day to day in your language learning. You need to be doing something that you enjoy. If somebody, for example, recommended you Pimsleur, or they recommended UTalk, these are great resources, but they're not for everybody. Some people enjoy different things, and I don't want you to be using a resource just because somebody recommended it to you. Even for me, I don't want you to be using a resource just because I recommended it to you. You need to be doing something that you actually genuinely enjoy. And if you find yourself not enjoying all sorts of things, think about, is it something that motivates you to keep practicing every day? Or every other day, or every 3 days, whatever your routine looks like? Is it something that you feel motivated to do consistently because It is an activity that you enjoy doing. Next piece of advice is be aware of your skill level. So a lot of people like to say that comprehensible input is king. Comprehensible input meaning you are taking information into your brain and you understand it, you can comprehend it. Comprehensible input doesn't work if you don't know the language like at all. If you don't have any base understanding of the vocabulary, of the pronunciation, of the sounds, of the way the language works as a whole, there is no such thing as comprehensible input to you. Or if, for example, you want to watch a movie and you don't understand it. I mean, passive listening is one thing, don't get me wrong, it's not like it's a complete waste of your time. But if you're trying to choose an activity for the explicit purpose of making progress and making as much progress as you can, as efficiently and quickly and smoothly as possible, then if you can't understand the thing, then it's not gonna work. You gotta understand to a base level. If you're at more of an intermediate level, if you have significant experience in the language and you can understand a lot of things, you don't wanna go down to a beginner level because that's, for the purpose of progressing in the language, referencing and reviewing and relearning beginner stuff isn't going to be the most helpful. So if you can already speak the language pretty well and you go back to Duolingo and you go, to the top of the tree and you start going from the beginning down, it's not going to do much. I mean, it'll do something, don't get me wrong, but it's not the most efficient way and you're definitely gonna get bored. If you're at like an intermediate level and you're going through beginner stuff, you're gonna get bored, I can promise you that. And that goes back to the second tip about being motivated. If you're bored, it is like the opposite of motivated. You wanna be motivated, enjoy what you're doing, and have it match your level or be a little bit above your level. And the last final tip I have for you is to think about value. And what I mean by that is resources that cost money. Now, if you're at all what I used to be like in the past, you might scoff at language learning resources that cost money. And you might think, why would I spend money on a language resource if I can get the same information elsewhere for free? All I have to do is Google it. All I have to do is look up a dictionary. I don't need to pay, that's a waste of money. While I do see the point that, at least in the commonly learned languages, especially the Romance languages, it is easy enough to do a Google search and find the information, find explanations, and find a lot of, free quizzes and stuff like that that you can use to build your skills. However, you get what you pay for. And in my experience, most, if not all, of the resources that cost money, they are worth it. They cost money for a reason, and it is to support a business that is growing and, trying to provide value and trying to help you progress through the language and build your skills. You don't have to pay for resources, that's true, but that price tag generally means that learning language will be more enjoyable, easier, faster, more engaging, more entertaining, any number of things. They don't cost money just to line some big corporate head's pockets. Generally, that might happen in some cases, I don't know. But generally, these price tags exist to support the functioning of an app or resource. Now, there's a difference between resources that are free, obviously, resources that cost like $10 to $15 a month, and resources that cost like a couple $100s. There's a difference. It's generally, like I said, it's generally value. There's generally a lot more value with more expensive resources, and I say this generally. In my experience, most resources are about the $10 to $15, $20 mark. And there are some more extravagant, I don't think extravagant is the right word, but a little bit more expensive resources. And expensive resources are the ones like Baselang, where it's unlimited speaking practice, things like that. And the other ones are like $10 to $20 a month. There's UTalk, there's Mondly, there's all sorts of, other apps in the middle that don't require a whole lot of investment but still provide you a bang for your buck. Now, if you are afraid of paying for resources just because, money is scarce, or, you've been burned by resources before, which I totally get that, believe you me. There are ways around it. Most resources have money-back guarantees, they have free trials. So these are ways to test out resources before you risk your money. So before you invest at all, or giving you like a free backdoor in case you invest and then you regret investing. These are options that you can definitely use to help ease your way into paying for resources if you're not used to paying for resources. I get it. Or, you know, at the very least, you can go to my website where I have reviews of a bunch of different resources. You can see what I think about resources that are at certain pay scales. You know, in my reviews, I always talk about how much they cost, so you can always, you know, take a look at the cost, take a look at what you get and who they're best for and all sorts of things. I'm all about making educated decisions about what you invest your time and money and like vulnerability into, because learning a language is definitely a vulnerable position, and I've been burned by language learning resources before. You probably have too. We want to, you know, get rid of that, prevent that in the future if we can at all. But just to end this little section of this video, I haven't outright regretted any resource that I've purchased. It might not be right for me, it might not be right for where I am in that time, but I have never like purchased a language learning resource and then thought, this is not worth the money. Holy crap, I forgot a whole other tip in here. I went from 2 to number 4. Thanks. Let's go back to number 3, which is actually number 5, which is actually my last tip. The number 3/number 5/definitely final tip that I have for you is don't be afraid to switch it up. And by that I mean, if something's not working for you, don't be afraid to try something new. You don't have to have like an amazing, huge, dramatic reason to give up on a resource and try another one. That isn't necessary. If there is something small that you don't like about a resource, like the speech recognition isn't working for you, and it's like stopping you from being consistent and stopping you from making progress, you have every right to try another resource. It doesn't have to be, you know, you don't have to ask the principal for permission to switch resources. Don't be afraid to switch it up if what you're using right now isn't serving you. However, this does come with a little bit of a disclaimer. If you're thinking about switching up your resource and your strategy, think about why you're doing it. Are you doing it because what you're using right now isn't serving you for whatever reason, be it motivation, be it enjoyment, be it skill level, be it any number of things? Or is it because you're FOMOing? Is it because you have a fear of missing out? Is it because you've come across a great deal, like especially Black Friday deals, for a language learning resource or a book or something, or somebody recommended a certain resource and said, I learned Spanish using this resource? Is it one of those things? Because if you're FOMOing, if you're doing, you know, shiny object syndrome, then don't. If you're perfectly happy with the strategy and the resource that you're using right now, and you're kind of looking at this other resource thinking, yeah, maybe I'm missing out, maybe this can be better, maybe I'll be better off using that, don't. All right? Shiny object syndrome, we're gonna avoid that. Feel free to switch up your routine, your strategy, your resources whenever you need to, as long as it's for the right reason. As long as what you're doing right now, what you're using right now, isn't serving you. If it's serving you, let that other stuff be. Let it go, let it die. Like, it'll be there one day. If you need it, it's fine. But if it works, and don't mess with it. That is all I have for this video. In the comment section below, let me know, what advice do you have about language learning styles? Is there anything that I didn't mention in this video that you would recommend to another language learner? Let me know. Otherwise, make sure you hit the subscribe button and you click the bell to be notified when I post a new video every Wednesday and Sunday. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.